The city was a jungle, concrete and steel, shadows and neon. It chewed up dreamers and spat them out. Mike, Jack, and Ethan were caught in its jaws. They grew up together in the shadow of the city's glitz, in a neighborhood where hope was a flickering streetlight. Mike was a factory worker, laid off, jobless, and drowning in debt. Jack, burdened by student loans, was trapped in a dead-end call center job. Ethan, a tech genius, struggled to pay his mother's medical bills. The city had dealt them a bad hand. They were tired of scraping by. One night, huddled in their usual booth at a dingy diner, they made a pact. This city, this life, wouldn't break them. They would beat it at its own game. They would take what they deserved. The idea started as a joke, a way to vent their frustration. "What if we robbed a bank?" Jack had said, his voice laced with bitterness. But the more they talked, the more the impossible seemed possible. They had nothing left to lose. They were desperate. They knew they couldn't pull off a traditional heist. They weren't thugs. Violence wasn't their style. Ethan, the brains of the operation, had a different idea. He had been studying the city's network, its digital veins and arteries. He knew its weaknesses. They would use their minds, not muscle. Ethan would hack into the bank's security system. He would disable alarms and cameras. Jack, with his gift of gab, would forge documents and create fake identities. Mike, strong and resourceful, would handle logistics and security. Their target was the First City Bank, a symbol of the city's wealth and their own deprivation. Ethan had spent months studying the bank's security protocols, mapping out its digital infrastructure. He discovered vulnerabilities, backdoors they could exploit. Jack used his position at the call center to gather information, accessing customer data and bank records. He forged employee IDs and security passes, creating flawless replicas. Mike, meanwhile, scouted the bank's location, memorizing guard routines and delivery schedules. They planned every detail, every movement, every possible scenario. They trained, practiced, and honed their skills. Their desperation had morphed into a steely determination. This was their shot at a better life. They wouldn't let it slip away. The city held its breath as a storm gathered on the horizon. Rain lashed down, mirroring the tension in the air. Tonight was the night. Dressed in crisp security guard uniforms, their faces hidden behind masks, they looked like phantoms in the downpour. Inside the bank, Ethan went to work. His fingers flew across the keyboard, a symphony of keystrokes. He bypassed firewalls, disabled alarms, and rerouted security feeds. Jack, his voice smooth and confident, guided Mike, disguised as a delivery man, through the bank's service entrance. The vault door, a monument to impenetrable security, swung open at Ethan's command. They worked quickly, efficiently, filling duffel bags with stacks of cash. They only took what they needed. No more, no less. This wasn't about greed. It was about justice. The storm raged on, providing cover as they slipped back into the city's labyrinthine streets. The adrenaline was still pumping, their hearts pounding in unison. They had done it. They had pulled off the impossible. Mike, the getaway driver, navigated the rain-slicked streets with precision. They abandoned the security guard uniforms, changing into nondescript clothes they had stashed beforehand. The city lights blurred into streaks of color as they vanished into the night. They lay low for days, hiding in a safe house Mike had secured. The weight of their actions hadn't hit them yet. They were safe for now. But they knew this was only the beginning. They were now ghosts, phantoms who had outsmarted the system. Section 6. The walls close in. The city that had seemed indifferent to their plight was now laser-focused on finding them. The news was saturated with headlines about the Robin Hood hackers, a moniker coined by the media for their seemingly victimless crime. The FBI, led by the relentless Agent Parker, was hot on their trail. Parker, a seasoned investigator with a reputation for tenacity, saw through their every move. He studied the security footage, analyzed the code, and pieced together their plan. He knew they were smart, but he was smarter. The pressure mounted. The city felt smaller, the walls closing in. The constant fear of discovery wore them down. They knew they couldn't stay hidden forever. They needed to disappear, to become ghosts in the machine they had mastered. Section 7. Ghosts in the Machine. Ethan, the architect of their digital escape, devised a plan. He would create false trails, digital decoys to throw the FBI off their scent. He would erase their online presence, wiped their existence from the digital world. They would become invisible. They divided the money, each taking only what they needed to start over. They said their goodbyes, their bond unbreakable despite the circumstances. They knew they couldn't contact each other, couldn't risk being caught. They went their separate ways, melting into the anonymity of the city. Mike, finally free of his debt, disappeared into the vastness of the American West. Jack, using his share to fund his education, enrolled in law school, determined to fight for others like them. Section 8. The Price of Freedom. Ethan, the most vulnerable due to his digital footprint, knew he had to make a sacrifice. He left behind a trail of breadcrumbs for Agent Parker, a puzzle that would lead him on a wild goose chase across the globe. He then erased himself, deleting every trace of his existence. He became a digital ghost, a whisper in the wind, living off the grid, using his skills to help those in need. He knew he could never truly escape his past, but he had found a purpose, a way to atone for his actions. The city, none the wiser, moved on. The headlines faded. The Robin Hood hackers became a legend, a cautionary tale whispered in hushed tones in the corridors of power. They had exposed the vulnerabilities of the system, shaken the foundations of the city's elite. They had won in a way, but at a price. Section 9. The Legend of the Robin Hood Hackers. Agent Parker never gave up. He chased dead ends, followed false leads, and spent countless hours trying to crack the code. He knew deep down that the Robin Hood hackers were more than just criminals. They were a symptom of a system rigged against the working class. The case remained open, a thorn in his side, a constant reminder of the ones who got away. But he also knew that their legend lived on, a flicker of hope in the darkness, a symbol of resistance against the injustices of the world. The city lights glittered, indifferent to the stories hidden in their shadows. The great Masquerade heist had become a modern-day fable, a tale of desperation, ingenuity, and the enduring human spirit in the face of adversity. The legend lived on,